I've spoken very highly of Ultimate Exorcist Kiyoshi since it came out. I've really liked the generation that we're in right now, this new generation of Shonen Jump. And just Shonen in general. It feels like there's a little bit of like odd spots with like other magazines like Gachi Akuta and Galaxias have such far gaps apart. And Shonen Jump has it all kind of clustered relatively around the same area with a lot of its newer stuff. But like Jump right now, and then like I said, manga and in general, I think is moving back towards a very core shonen style, which I very much appreciate. And because of that, I think that we've had such a consistent release of new series that have been really good. And excuse me, sir. See, he's excited about the new chapters. But the thing about Kyoshi that I have given it the most credit for, whenever it comes to like what it has over any of the other series, is the fact that it has the most consistent quality characters that it produces. Like even a lot of the villains end up having sides of them that are likable and funny. And so like it when you have relatively only characters introduced into the series that are unlikable because they're purposely made to be unlikable, it just gives it so much more of an edge that a lot of the other series are doing. And like I've said, like if there's different like there's different kind of just talents that a lot of these newer manga are putting out and stuff that each of these series have for their own, like their own kind of corner of quality and what they do best. And I've mentioned the thing about Kyoshi that I would personally give it to is the fact that it has the highest percentage of characters introduced that end up being very likable, very cool. And again, it's not like these other series don't. It's just when you look at, say, like Kagurabachi, Ichi the Witch, Galaxias, they have their own cool characters, but it's not this sheer frequency of how many get released in Kyoshi that end up being, again, very likable and feel like key members to their individual groups. And again, it's like even these last couple chapters and what we got in this most recent chapter with Tsurugi and his whole reaction with Concordia, you have these characters who were only, for the most part, given to us recently. Like we now have like Mako, and Hitsugi and stuff for a while. But when you have, say, like Akari's brother, he hasn't been too long existing in the series, like in terms of like for us, for the readers. And so getting a pretty quick, like I would say mostly like a chapter and a half this arc specifically of character content, and he's already really likable. I thought the last chapter where he was willing to put himself through all that damage in order to try and take down this demon the best he could and help his squad. And I always give characters credit anytime that, even if their efforts don't result in like direct positive yields, there's still a degree of, okay, well, what exactly did they do in this scenario? Like Mako is really upset. She's crying because she says that she wasn't able to do anything when she came into the fight with Tanjinchi, which I disagree with, because if she didn't have that short moment where she was able to prolong his him wanting to kill Karuta, he'd be dead and they would be down one person. Because Tsurugi says, okay, well, it's a good thing that I was here, pretty much just showed up before anyone died, but you guys did a great job holding yourself off against the #1 ranked demon lord. And again, that just shows like his squad, even though they didn't relatively do anything, it was the fact that they're in a scenario where they were not going to win. Like, even if Nihon and Jack Joe were at full power, like, even if you took all these guys, put them at full power, I don't imagine they would win against the #1 ranked person. So, them just surviving the way they did was very positive in Tsurugi's eyes. Because I would imagine if he's, before this, we didn't know where he was at exactly. We know that he had a moment of just kind of flexing on all the demon lords when they were coming in. We don't know how long he was messing around with them before he ended up getting over here. But if he ended up taking too long and any of his squad members died, that would be on him. Because even though they're in a very dangerous, big environment right now, ultimately his squad is his responsibility. So he wants to keep all of them alive. Plus, obviously, he has emotional investment in each of them. You know, it's not like they were just assigned to him going out this mission. He's known them for a minute. These are people that he's acknowledged and let into Concordian into the squad. So it was really good just in general to see Tsurugi's response to his members putting in all that effort and being hurt and whatnot. Because like, well, he's in a scenario where he's going to be fighting this guy who's the #1 ranked demon lord. He ends up putting more direct focus on his squad, and he waits until the other guy attacks. To Tanjinchi goes for like due to a backslash, blocks it, does a Balmung, and sends him away, and then pulls out this cool sword board to go fly out there. I would love like if his character kind of like funny thing, because the mangaka, he's done a really good job of always having one of those kind of little character traits where once you see it, you know that at the end of the day, when this character isn't out doing their job, they've got their own day-to-day things and hobbies. I think it would be hilarious just from the fact that if everything Tsurugi's themed is with swords and blades, what if he loved characters that like he'll get into any show or read any book if it is sword themed, and you could maybe see like when we get like a chapter where you see his apartment or his house or whatever. I would assume that he's either got like he's one of those like drifting, like I don't have a specific place forever, or he's gonna have like literally base squatted up. These are my ready for war at all times, but he's gonna have his own spot in there where he has like his hobbies. I think it'd be hilarious if they did a bunch of references to other sword characters, and he's just like, anytime that you want to talk to him about like a fiction, you mention that there's a sword character, and he's like, I'm listening, go on. But as it were, I thought it was super badass in just general demonstration of his powers when he moves this dude just to a different location, and you had the whole like, oh, you moved me here to not get anyone in collateral damage within our fight, right? And he's just like partially, but also like he's Tsurugi starts to, you can tell like his energy like in rage is starting to swell, and he's like, I also don't want my teammates to see me lose my temper. And that was just badass in general, because while he's doing it, these leaves all around him are just splitting, and you see like in this panel that his general kind of aura around him of his percept power seems to create these energy blades. And we've seen other characters have like parts where their energy kind of exudes off their body, but to have a specific kind of, again, just the trait of slicing as they go about is so badass. It's just one of those very small character detail things that gives him such a level of personalized intimidation in how he fights. And I've given it to Kiyoshi too. One thing with the other series is that I feel like when it comes to powers, it's a little more specific. Because, say like, you look at all these other newer gen series. Like I said, with characters, Kiyoshi has I would say overall, if you took each of the best characters from each, a bunch of these newer gen series, Kiyoshi has the most good characters, like the highest quantity of characters who are very likable, very solid for only 40 chapters in. And just the other series, I don't think they have as many of the same level of quality. But when it comes to like character powers and how the abilities in the verse worked, they end up being more subjective and more opinion based. I personally, I really love the whole crest. My dog's trying to wrestle my cat, but I really love the crest powers and how they give a personalized fighting style to the person as well using them. Because you see in this panel, like the combat stance that Tsurugi gives off seems to be more of like a martial artist. I'm dropping everything. But he obviously, as we know, is a more sword-based character. So I love the intimidation presence that he gives. But man, I know that we're gonna be set on Hitsugi's fight for a while before we get over to here. But at the same time, I would assume that Tsurugi is gonna have like, I don't think he's gonna have an all-out fight, because I think he's gonna need to get into the Azudaroth battle at least a little bit. But I don't imagine that this is gonna be the hardest fight he's ever had, at least by a lot. Maybe this is his hardest fight, but he's had close to other matches. Because we don't know the full scope of the demon world, but we know that there are 3 great demon lords. I'm guessing because the Zootroth is the first one up, he's the weakest. He's probably the youngest out of them, the most hot-headed. And so you'll probably have more characters at the upper level of the Demon Lords, especially like the stronger ones, in these other army branches or other squads of the Demon World and whatnot. That's something that we're just going to have to really wait and see. But there was another cool comment from Tanjinchi when he's saying, you know, this is a modern cross paladin, because he was happy about it because all the exorcists he's killed before hasn't satisfied him or given him a good fight. And I think that's really important, just as like a little note of his, you know, his character background, because we don't know exactly what causes each of the demons to fit their own style. If it's just, you know, they have their own like little mini demon cultures, and maybe this guy's just from a Japanese themed one. And obviously they're in, you know, it's a Japanese manga, but I think the fact that he mentions like a modern cross paladin, which means he's fought older generation cross paladins, and the fact that he's very specifically Japanese, like heavy Japanese themed, plus he's this ranked 1 demon lord, so I'm guessing he is the, like, he was at the last Black Parade, and it would make sense if he was fighting demon or exorcists and whatnot when this was probably more of a, like, the way that he's dressed was more modern at the time. So my guess is he's going to be one of those older characters, and he was at the first Black Parade. So we're going to find out a little bit of information about it from him. But after that, I loved the Hitsugi side of the chapter. Again, one thing I mentioned, like I said, the characters in this verse. There's a very strong contesting point for me of who is my favorite character. I would say like the top 4 right now, you know, Kiyoshi is the main character, Sakaki, Tsurugi, and Hitsugi. Because I really like Hitsugi's character in the fact that he's like the opposite of what you'd expect the roles to be with Kiyoshi and him, but it's more so, you know, the character that is the main character you'd expect to be one step below the cool, calm-headed, more kind of smart, badass talking rival. It's actually reversed, whereas Hitsugi, it's not like Hitsugi is weak, and it's not like he isn't capable. It's clear that he is a high prodigy and high capabilities and high talent, but he is not just able at the full length and capabilities as Kiyoshi is. I just don't want my dogs to bother my cat too much. She's fully fine playing with them, but somebody's gonna end up trying to eat my dog. But anyway, hang on, let me actually get my cat. Okay, she went under my chair. I worry about my dumb dogs getting smacked because she has no fear when it comes to dogs. So as it were, though, like I was saying, I like that Hitsugi goes into that character position where he is a high level of determination and hard work on top of his talent, and because of that, he is a foil to this immense level of raw capability, but at the same time, it's that level of determination that even though he's never going to be able to fully catch up to Kiyoshi, maybe at some point in the series he'll be able to overtake him for a period of time, but I would imagine it's more so of that stride to kind of keep up with absurd capabilities, and that's going to be what pushes Kiyoshi as well, because Kiyoshi's going to be able to keep seeing new heights if he's able to see someone beside him keep going and growing. Which I think is really cool, that on top of all that, you have that whole dynamic where Kiyoshi has the admiration for Hitsugi, where he thinks he's really cool, and even though Kiyoshi is much stronger than him and has much higher level of raw potential and capability, Kiyoshi still is impressed by Hitsugi all the time, especially with like how well he shit talks. But as it were, we got a little explanation as well on Kurose's powers. It seems like his ice ability, at least that he's been doing, is more of a passive. Like, the air directly around him is negative 350 degrees Fahrenheit or around it. So everything outside of it is just a result of this core level of cold at this point, and just affecting everything with seemingly like a couple hundred feet. But I really liked that's kind of bit of dialogue and the recapping where one, you sort of like, oh, I'm guessing you're here to get revenge on your brother, and he's like, shit, they how did they guess that? I mean, I lost half of my my villain ominous dialogue just by the fact they're asking that. But he ends up just kind of, beating around the bush, just be like, I don't really want to kind of talk about this too much. But at the same time, while Kurose's being silly, he's like, oh, but if you don't defeat me soon, all the humans that I froze, they're gonna be dead. So you guys better hurry up and come exorcise me. But also don't get close to me. That's where he mentions like the cold air around him. Kiyoshi's hand gets frozen just trying to go for an attack. He does like this cool ice, like just ice stalactites, like poke attack at him. Kiyoshi blocks, obviously, and gets sent back. And there's this really cool moment with Hitsugi where he's doing a recap. He's just like, okay, well, we've defeated 3 of the demon lords. We only have the top 3 left. Sakaki's against 2, Tsurugi's against 1, and we have 2 of us against number 3. And he's being real with himself for a second. He's like, I don't know if I'd be able to defeat him on my own, but with Kiyoshi right here, then we got this one for sure. Beating this guy will really turn the battle in our favor. But right when that happens, you have Azudaroth manifest and descend down, already on some freaky hours, because he's like, I can smell you, Kiyoshi, where are you? And everyone is just looking up at this is just like, well, shit, because now they're on a timer. Because it doesn't matter if defeating the whole idea of defeating the demon lords is to get ready to where they can fight Azudaroth, because even if they defeat the demon lords, if they don't defeat Azudaroth, it doesn't seem to really matter, because everyone dies anyway. But Kiyoshi's already like locked on. He's not shaken or he's like, oh no, he's here already. He's just like, this asshole, time to go to war. But Kurose is just, he's like, if you got to get through me first. If you can't get through me, then there's no reason for you to, be going up against Azudaroth. There's, you're not worthy. But Hitsugi fully is aware. He's like, well, we have Kyokus, she's still okay, but she's not going to be able to 1v1 Azudaroth on her own. She's going to need Kiyoshi. And this was a really cool character defining moment for him, because before he was like, sweet, this was, if I was alone, this would be a really hard fight. I don't know if I could beat this guy, but I've got Kiyoshi here, so this is going to be easy for the mission. We just got to keep going, and then it's going to be a really big thing in our favor. But with Azudaroth here, he understands that the mission is what's important. They need to maximize defeating the leader of the enemies and saving as many people as possible. So when he's at a spot where it's like, can I defeat this guy alone? It comes down to, again, while he's thinking to himself, like, why am I asking that? It's because he knows it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter if he thinks he could do it alone or not. Kiyoshi needs to be elsewhere. Kiyoshi needs to be elsewhere in order for them to get the mission done. But on top of that, it's good that he's not doubting himself in the sense where he's like, well, yeah, if Kiyoshi was with me, I could defeat this guy on my own. But I shouldn't even matter about that, or like be thinking about that, because it doesn't matter. What I should be thinking about is how I'm going to defeat this guy. But also, it doesn't matter if he directly, defeats him. He just needs to make sure that Kiyoshi is not in this fight. Because if you really think about it as well, if, say, Hitsugi fought him, failed, and, the people that were frozen by Kurose, weren't saved, but in the end they defeated Azudaroth, that was, a unfortunate future, but still one that is more so better than if Azudaroth is just left unchecked and starts going around slaughtering everybody, and probably is going to end up leading to the end of Naraku City. As well as, like, he's just like, Harai, go, leave this guy to me, going to the name of the chapter. And there is an acknowledgement from both Kiyoshi, clearly, and from Kurose, where they both know Hitsugi is not, directly, in what you can tell, strong enough in order to beat this guy 1v1. And Kiyoshi, you can tell Kiyoshi's just like, are you sure about that? Like, he's having a moment. And, he's even saying, like, you're doubting me? Like, come on, man. But he's like, you trust me, man. I got this. And Kiyoshi, he takes a moment. He's like, okay. He turns, he leaves. And that's where you have just that kind of, moment where Hitsugi is like, I gotta really push through my limits and become stronger than I am in order to defeat this guy. And he's like, Kurosa's like, I can, you should be able to sense the difference in our strength. And one thing, again, that Hitsugi has very well is he's a very good shit talker. He's like, the difference in our strength, let's save that for after we find out who wins. And like I said, this was a fantastic character chapter for Concordia. And one of the reasons that this was so good is because, similar to how you have Sakaki and Tsurugi, that's what Hitsugi and Kiyoshi are of their generation. You have Tsurugi, who is clearly very capable, very talented, very hardworking, very determined, but Sakaki just seems to be that person of his generation that just, he's always one step ahead of him. He's always just one notch above him no matter how much he tries. And it doesn't seem to really be an issue with him to a degree. Obviously, like, he, there's a level of wanting to be the best, but there's like some walls that you just can't go get over or break through. But I mean, at the same time, it's like, well, he's on your side, so does it really matter at the end of the day? You got to get the job done. So with Hitsugi being at the end of the chapter where we get an opening into the leader of Concordia, it shows a very good double set character moment for the two of them, of the next generation for somebody in this group for Concordia and the current leader, or both of them took, in Tsurugi's case, it's more so, he's at the rank to do this, where Hitsugi is pushing to try and one day achieve this rank. He is trying to put up his worth in order to be like, it doesn't matter if I can do this. I'm either going to keep this guy here and die trying, or I'm going to beat him, which is it's a very hardened level of warrior mentality, which I like a lot about him. Because again, if he's like, that's in his head too. It's like, if I can't beat this guy, I'm gonna at least hold him here so they can go fight and they can get stuff done. I know he's at an elemental disadvantage to a degree as well. I mean, he uses water, Kurosa uses ice, just baseline, water is at a disadvantage. But he is using holy water, so I would imagine there's a level of like power interaction there where, the holy element in his attacks have a way of counteracting the powers that Kurosa has, because they're all demon based. I would assume, enough holy water probably would counteract this dude's whole, everything is negative 350 around me. Probably in some like, oh yeah, it goes from like my demon aura a power, so I convert my demonic energy directly into cold. So if he uses holy water to target the moisture in the air directly around him, something, I don't know, and then that is able to cancel out his power. I really look forward to just seeing what all of these fights lay out in. With Sakaki, I want to see Sakaki's weapons that he hasn't used, because I really would like to do a video on him specifically, but I'm waiting for him to get all of his dice rolls out with high stakes. And then with Hitsugi, I really want to see what exactly his other abilities are when it comes to what, like, with his crest, what attacks he has besides just Leviathan, giant condensed water beam kind of attack. Good attack, but I mean, that's not gonna do anything here. He's got to think of a couple more moves that he can pull out. But anyway, other than that, comment below, tell me your thoughts about this chapter and what your thoughts are about these upcoming fights. I'm really stoked for these. These fights look really good, and I'm hoping that we get maybe like 2 or 3 chapters on each of them. Hitsugi's, like, I would assume that his is going to be one where maybe we get like a little indicator of his raw capability. Maybe he'll do like some crazy all-in move where he's knocked out for the rest of the fight. Because I would assume like the cross paladins are gonna try and do what they can to get back in, recover, and go and fight Azuroth and help Kiyoshi. But I would assume that that Hitsugi is going to be done after this fight, unless he's able to like hyper heal or something. I don't know. I'm trying to think of what exactly like would be useful for him going into a fight against somebody like this, though. Maybe he'll be able to be like, oh, I can convert demonic ice attacks, like directly melt them into holy water so they heal me. Some reverse thing. I don't know. Maybe this guy gets in just a bad power combo. Who knows how it's going to lay out. We just got to wait for a couple more chapters. But other than that, I'll talk to you guys in the next one. Bye.